A great man once said that to alleviate sorrow, you need a glass of wine, a hot warm bath, and a good night's sleep. It's a shame that St. Thomas Aquinas wasn't around to ever have a canistella. So why am I talking about this Thomas Aquinas fellow? Well, because he was probably, if not the, smartest man to ever live. He wrote tons and tons of books on everything from science to politics to philosophy, and he is one of the founding thinkers of our civilization. So he must have been pretty good at learning and pretty good at writing, right? Another very significant guy, a guy who preached the Second Crusade, a guy who led Europe in war to reclaim the Holy Land. A guy called Bernard of Clairvaux, a great doctor of the church. He's called the honey-worded doctor, because his words were so persuasive and so beautiful, they were like honey upon the tongue. Well, he reformed one of the most widespread practices in Europe at that time, and also, in my experience, one of the most effective ways of learning anything. This practice was something called Lectio Divina, or divine reading. Now, this was meant to read scripture at the time, but you can apply it to pretty much anything. It's because it's really, really easy to apply. There are 4 steps to this divine reading. First of all, you read the passage aloud. Now, this will freak a lot of you guys out. I mean, it will remind you of being in year 2 and everyone looking as you read out the story. Or you might be worried about your English or something, right? Fuck that, right? Just do it anyway. And you're going to read it out loud 4 times. Each time when you read it, you're going to focus on a different part of the text in your mind, although you're going to read the whole thing. Then you meditate. You might be reading a piece of poetry, I don't know, maybe Shakespeare, and you've read a passage of Macbeth, and you're reflecting, well, what was Macbeth's intent here? What was Lady Macbeth's intent? What was King Duncan's intent? Or you could be reading a book on chemistry. Well, what does the covalent bond mean here? How would this affect the properties of the new material? Now, I can already hear the shrieking in the comments about the 3rd step, because the 3rd step is to sit and pray, in silence. Since prayer is to lift your intellect up to God, in any way, the idea behind this is that you ask God for certain things, and you resolve to do things yourself. So you may have read something on, I don't know, maybe particular things you don't want a woman you're going to marry, right? So you've read a particular thing on that. Now, what you do in this prayer section is chew over it in your head and say, right, God, protect me from this particular kind of woman. And I resolve, if I see this particular red flag, I'm going to avoid it. Then the 4th and final part is to reflect on it. Now, this could be taking notes from the whole reading and from the whole meditation. It could be just going over it in your mind. But the idea is that you've got to let what you've just done sit. You've got to let it sit and be something that's now internal to you after you've done this. Now, it turns out that this is incredibly effective on its own. You can retain a lot from it. But what about if you want to remember it in more granular detail? Or if you want to retain the memories for longer? Well, it's very simple. You ask yourself questions and you answer tests. I think the greatest, most pertinent example of this is that in monasteries that have been in Europe since the 6th century AD, they have had very, very harsh punishments for people who didn't memorise the songs that they sung, because they sung these songs multiple times a day. This could even be as harsh as things like not being able to eat for an entire day. So essentially, when you apply this, you think of the work as a song, and if you don't get it right completely, then you have a stick to hit yourself with. So an example of this in the modern world that I've used would be to give your friend, say, £50 or $100 and tell them that if you don't do a particular task, or if you fail a particular part of the test that you needed to have learnt, then they get to keep that money. And that way you've got some sort of stick that if you fuck up, you suffer. So I hope this has been useful. You should probably put these things into place, because the more learned a man is, then the more he can deal with the problems in his world. Thanks for watching. A very big thank you to those on the list here. These are subscribers to the Renaissance Man program who get audiobooks and controversial videos every week for $5 a month. There's already quite a lot of content there, so if you check it out in the description, you won't be missing out. Thank you.